Today we are in Nazareth outside of the Church of the Annunciation to talk about the angel Gabriel appearing to the Virgin Mary. I want to consider this story from the perspective of a young teenage girl. The angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. And behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus." The angel gave Mary the greatest news that had ever been delivered in the history of planet Earth and in the history of humanity. Yet, we're told that she was fearful. She was greatly troubled. She was disturbed because she didn't know what to make of the angel. She didn't know what this meant for her. Her human mind couldn't comprehend the thought of becoming the mother of the Son of God. There are many times in our lives that God does things or things happen that we simply can't understand. Sometimes they're so tremendously, awesomely good that we can't fathom it. Other times there are tragedies that happen. And in those moments, it is easy for us to question God and to question what his intent or his purpose is. Mary asked an honest question when she received the news from the angel. She, as a faithful Jewish girl, knew that the prophets had ceased speaking many hundreds of years ago, had been silent for nearly 400 years at this time. And so to receive this message from an angel and to see one face to face, well, that meant that there was something really big going on. And she didn't know if this was a positive greeting or not. We also know that these promises that had been given to God's people, there were many faithful Jewish people waiting for those promises to be fulfilled, but many had lost hope, had lost any sort of faith that these promises would actually come true, especially with the oppression of the Roman government, the centurions patrolling their streets, controlling their way of life, the corruption that was going on in the temple. All of these things made it seem as if God was not going to be able to keep his promises. There are very powerful forces that were arrayed against God and his purpose. And so for Mary to hear the good news that his purposes would be accomplished in her son was a tremendous thing, but she probably had no idea how in the world that was going to happen. And so for all these reasons, she was troubled. She was concerned. She was disturbed. And yet Mary, by her faith and listening to the word of God, by trusting in God, she was allowed by God to conceive the Christ, to conceive Jesus. And in so doing, she was used as an awesome and wonderful part of God's plan of salvation. He definitely used her to accomplish his purpose and his will, not only for her, but for the rest of humanity. And again, Mary, as a young teenage girl, the very same age as our confirmation students, many of whom are watching these very videos, she didn't get it, she didn't understand, she didn't know, and yet God was able to use her. And so in Mary, we can find great comfort and we can find great courage because God used her to do his will in ways that she could have never imagined or thought or even dreamt possible. And so this is a wonderful story. The story of Mary and Gabriel is an awesome story of God choosing a normal person, just a young girl from nowhere, Nazareth, to accomplish his purpose and his will. And in this story, we find great courage and strength for us to continue to live our lives faithfully and to serve God in a way that just as Mary's faith brought him glory, we too, serving God in faith, can bring him glory.